The silence of my early retirement was usually a welcome thing. Just the low hum of the refrigerator, the distant trill of a bird, and the gentle rustle of the newspaper. I was Robert, 72 years old, and I was finally supposed to be at peace. But that morning the peace was ripped apart by a sound I hadn't heard in years, the distinct, furious thud of a key shoved too violently into the lock, followed by the front door practically being shouldered open. They didn't bother knocking. They didn't even call out a casual greeting. Sarah, my only daughter, stood framed in the archway of the living room, her face a mask of cold, white rage I barely recognized. Behind her loomed Kevin, my son-in-law, his shoulders rigid and his jaw set like concrete. He wasn't even attempting to hide the hostility. His eyes were dark with fury, fixing on me with the lethal focus of a predator. If you're watching this video, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Do let me know in the comments of where you're watching from. I sat motionless at the kitchen table, the half-empty coffee mug cooling in front of me. I knew exactly why they were there. Tucked into the pocket of my cardigan was the source of their explosion, the new, pristine, navy blue debit card from Fidelity, the card that officially severed the invisible, insidious cord that had bled my savings dry for the last 6 years. Kevin took a heavy step toward me, his voice dangerously low, stripped of its usual smooth, polite veneer. "What the hell is this, Robert?" he demanded, slamming a crumpled bank statement onto the table. "You canceled the joint access. You actually went down to the branch and shut us out." Sarah finally spoke, her voice shaking with disbelief, a raw, high-pitched sound of betrayal. "Dad, we had a deal. This was supposed to be our security. How could you do this to us? Do you have any idea what you've ruined?" I looked at the statement, then up at their furious, entitled faces. Ruined? The only thing I'd ruined was their access to the fund they treated like an ATM, the fund they swore was necessary for my future care. I felt a quiet, simmering heat rise in my chest, a feeling that wasn't panic, but a slow, overdue burn of justice. I reached into my pocket, pulling out the new card. I held the small, heavy piece of plastic up between my thumb and forefinger. Watching their eyes track the movement like hawks, I didn't flinch. "I updated my account," I said, my voice steady, surprising even myself. "I got a new card. And the truth, Sarah," I added, looking straight into the eyes of my own flesh and blood, "is that I think it's time we finally talked about what ruined means." Ruin. The word hung in the air, thick and poisoned. For them, ruin meant the sudden, inconvenient loss of an easy income stream. For me, ruin had been a slow-motion disaster, a moral decay that started 6 years ago, 2 months after my wife Helen died. I'd been adrift. Helen was the anchor, the accountant, the realist. I was the dreamer, the engineer, the man who knew how to build bridges, but not balance a checkbook. When she was gone, I felt like a ship cut loose in a storm. That was when Sarah and Kevin arrived, all concern and efficiency. "Dad," Sarah had said, sitting exactly where I was sitting now, holding a thermos of Helen's favorite tea. "We know you're overwhelmed. You don't need to worry about the retirement funds right now. Kevin and I are just trying to protect you. We'll manage the accounts, just until you're back on your feet." Kevin, ever the smooth operator, he was an account manager at a mid-tier firm, perpetually dressed like he was about to sign a multi-million-dollar deal, had produced the paperwork, a basic power of attorney, giving them access to the primary checking and savings accounts. "It's just a safeguard, Robert," he'd explained patiently, his hand resting reassuringly on my shoulder. "If you ever have an emergency, or if you become incapacitated, we can handle the medical bills instantly. It's for your security." I signed it. I signed it because I loved my daughter, because I trusted Kevin's polished demeanor, and because my grief was a heavy blanket that smothered all skepticism. I trusted them with the money Helen and I had painstakingly saved over 4 decades of working and sacrificing, a nest egg that was supposed to last me 20 years. For the first few months, the money transfers were minor. Kevin needed to buy me a new laptop for easier online banking. Sarah handled the utility bills directly, transferring small, regular amounts. Then, the amounts started growing. A large withdrawal, labeled emergency home maintenance, coincided with their announcement that they were having their leaky roof replaced, a roof that sat on their $600,000 suburban starter home, not my modest house. When I asked, Sarah had simply said, "We had to pay the contractor immediately, Dad. The bank was closed. We'll pay it back next month, promise." Next month came and went. The money didn't return. A year later, the withdrawals became bolder. Kevin came to the house driving a brand new silver SUV. "Got a fantastic deal, Robert. Couldn't pass it up. Better for transporting you to appointments, right?" The money for the down payment and 3 subsequent monthly payments had vanished from my account under the guise of investment reallocation. The tipping point was 2 months ago. I happened to be at the grocery store when I overheard Sarah excitedly telling her friend on the phone about their upcoming cruise to the Mediterranean. "It's all-inclusive, Jenny. 7 days. We just booked it. Seriously, the new kitchen renovation Kevin did saved us so much, we decided to treat ourselves." New kitchen renovation. That was the same week I found a $45,000 transfer in my online statement, vaguely noted as Property Improvement Fund. The renovation wasn't for my house, which hadn't seen a major update since the 90s. It was for their house. That night, something in me snapped. The grief-induced haze finally lifted, replaced by a cold, searing clarity. They weren't managing my security. They were funding their lifestyle. They were systematically dismantling the future Helen and I had planned, selling my peace for their granite countertops and luxury cruises. That's when I called the lawyer, then the bank. It took 2 appointments, a mountain of documentation, and the quiet satisfaction of the branch manager, who had clearly seen this kind of financial abuse before, to fully sever their access. I didn't just close the account. I moved everything to a new institution, under a new trust, with a new card, the navy blue card. "What I ruined?" I repeated Kevin's question, the cool plastic of the new card still between my fingers. I dropped the card onto the table, placing it precisely on top of the crumpled statement he'd thrown down. Kevin stepped closer, leaning over the table, trying to use his height to intimidate me. "The future, Robert. Our ability to care for you. That money was earmarked for your assisted living one day. What happens when you need full-time nursing? Where is that money going to come from now? Do you expect us to shoulder that burden?" I held his gaze, a slight, almost imperceptible smile touching my lips. "No, Kevin. I expect me to shoulder that burden. With my money." I reached for the crumpled bank statement and smoothed out the top sheet. My finger tapped the line item for the $45,000 transfer. This, for instance, I said calmly, the Property Improvement Fund. A marvelous use of my life savings, wouldn't you say? Especially since that fund went directly into installing the Brazilian quartzite countertops in your new gourmet kitchen, Sarah. Sarah flinched as if struck. The rage momentarily vanished, replaced by panic and a flash of guilty color on her cheeks. Dad, that was a one-time thing. We were just going to… And the new SUV, Kevin, I continued, ignoring Sarah's frantic defense. I understand the need for better transportation, but 4 separate withdrawals totaling $15,000 marked as miscellaneous home repair. That's what funded the down payment, isn't it? A bit of a stretch for a leaky faucet, even by San Diego standards. Kevin was speechless for a heartbeat, which was rare for him. His eyes narrowed, and he dropped the polite facade completely. You've been tracking us. You didn't exactly hide it, Kevin. You put your family's entire wish list on my dime. The trips to Cancun, the private school tuition for little Maya last semester, the ridiculously oversized television in the media room, all paid for by the future care of your father-in-law. Do you know how much money you've taken in 6 years? I paused, letting the weight of the question settle. $285,000, I stated flatly. Nearly 1/3 of everything Helen and I saved. That is what you have ruined, Sarah. You didn't just take money, you stole my ability to trust you, and you stole the legacy your mother worked for. Sarah burst into tears, but they weren't tears of remorse. They were tears of pure, unadulterated self-pity and fury that she had been caught. You are being completely unfair, Dad. We sacrificed so much time to help you after Mom died. We had to constantly check on you. We handled all your paperwork. We deserved something for our efforts, she cried, throwing her hands up in the air. We were managing everything. This is all about revenge, because we took a little trip. I pushed my chair back, the scrape of wood against the tile floor sounding loud in the tight kitchen space. I stood, finally meeting them eye to eye. No, Sarah, this isn't revenge. This is setting a boundary, I corrected her, walking slowly to the living room archway, blocking their easy exit. You're right about one thing. You ruined the deal, which is why I'm offering you a new one. Kevin took a step forward, his shadow engulfing me. He was breathing heavily, his chest heaving under his pressed shirt. The smooth businessman was gone, replaced by a desperate thief. You don't get to offer anything, Robert. I'm still your power of attorney. You're confused. You're elderly. This is financial fraud, on your part. Kevin snarled, his voice a low, vibrating threat. You can't just move funds out of an account with my name on it. I'm calling my lawyer right now. I'll have that new card frozen and your accounts reinstated by the end of the day. I smiled, a genuine cold smile that felt alien on my face. You're welcome to try, Kevin, but you might want to call that lawyer first and ask him about undue influence and elder financial abuse when documented transfers are used to fund personal luxury items instead of the elderly person's welfare. I reached to the small side table where my keys usually sat and lifted a crisp, legal-sized folder. It was thin, but heavy with authority. I've already spoken to my lawyer, Mr. Davidson, I explained, tapping the folder. He has copies of every statement, every transaction, and a detailed list of every item purchased for your personal benefit, including the make and model of the SUV and the specific brand of Italian tile you used in the master bathroom. I even have the sales receipts." I let that sink in. Kevin's face turned from furious red to a sickly grey. Sarah stopped crying, her jaw hanging slightly open as she finally processed the fact that I wasn't grieving anymore. I was calculating. "Now for the new deal," I continued, my voice measured and slow. I was speaking as an engineer, outlining the steps of a demolition, precise and uncompromising. "First, the key." I pointed to Kevin's hand, which was still loosely gripping the door key he had used to barge in. "I want my house key back. Right now. You are not to enter this house again without my explicit invitation. You lost the privilege of access when you decided to treat this place like a retirement vault." Kevin didn't move. His thumb nervously rubbed the brass of the key. "You can't be serious, Dad. You'd lock us out," Sarah whispered, horrified. "I am perfectly serious, Sarah. In fact, if that key is not on this table in the next 10 seconds, the next conversation we have will be through Mr. Davidson." I paused, giving Kevin a hard, unwavering look. 9, 8, 7. The countdown was ridiculous, something I might have done with Sarah when she was 7, but it shattered Kevin's pretense of control. He hesitated. Then, with a curse that was barely audible, he yanked the key out of his hand and flung it onto the kitchen table. It skittered across the polished wood, landing next to the navy blue debit card. I ignored it, moving on to the main point. "Second, the repayment. The sum is $285,000. I have it itemized as a promissory note for embezzlement and misuse of fiduciary duty." Sarah gasped. "Embezzlement? Dad, we'll be ruined." "Ruin is a choice, Sarah," I countered. "You chose to live beyond your means with my money. My lawyer agrees that we have an extremely strong case for restitution, including interest and legal fees, which, given your home and Kevin's income, will be financially devastating." I held up 2 fingers. "However, I'm offering an alternative, a scheduled repayment plan. You have 48 hours to secure a personal loan or second mortgage and return the full amount. If you can't, I will accept monthly installments of exactly $5,000 beginning on the 1st of next month until the principal is repaid. That's 5 years of financial discipline, 5 years of paying me back for the luxuries I didn't get to enjoy." Kevin found his voice again, though it was weak. $5,000 a month? That's impossible. We can't afford that. We have a mortgage. We have Maya's tuition." "Then sell the SUV," I suggested mildly, "or refinance the mortgage you now have, thanks to that Brazilian quartzite kitchen. Or perhaps, Sarah, you could finally get a job." "If you miss one payment," I warned, my voice cutting through their fear, "Mr. Davidson will file the charges and freeze your assets. You will lose more than just my money. You will lose everything." I walked over to a small, seldom-used phone table and picked up the cordless receiver. "And finally, the relationship. You two will not contact me except to deliver the payment, or if you need to discuss Maya. Maya is innocent in all this, and I love her fiercely. But I will not be a resource, a bank, or a casual friend until the debt is settled. You've taught me the hard way that when money is involved, the family tie means nothing to you." Sarah stumbled toward me, reaching out a hand, tears streaming down her face now, begging, "Dad, please, I'm your daughter. Don't do this. We love you. We were just trying to save some money for when you needed it." I gently raised the phone to my ear, interrupting her. I didn't dial. I just looked at her, my heart finally hard and detached. That's a lovely sentiment, Sarah, but you should have thought about love and security before you spent it on a 7-day Mediterranean cruise. I lowered the phone, delivering the final blow. You have exactly 2 minutes to leave my property. If you're here when I put this phone down, I'm calling the police and reporting unauthorized entry and a disturbance. And if Kevin opens his mouth again to threaten me, I'm calling my lawyer right now and filing the paperwork. I looked at Kevin. He stared back, the reality of the situation finally slamming into him. He was a professional. He knew how quickly an accusation of elder financial abuse could destroy his career. The fight went out of him. He looked at the floor, defeated. He turned to Sarah, grabbing her arm. "We're going, Sarah, now." He practically dragged her, still sobbing and protesting, back through the living room. As they reached the front door, Kevin snatched his key off the table, then paused, realizing what he'd done. He sheepishly tossed it back onto the table, the key to my house, lying next to the card that bought my freedom. The door didn't slam this time. It closed softly, definitively, cutting off the sound of Sarah's frantic accusations. The house settled back into silence. I stood there, holding the phone, waiting until I heard the sound of their SUV speeding away. Then I walked back to the kitchen table. The crumpled statement, the unwanted key, and the glorious navy blue card. I picked up the key and tossed it into the trash can. I sat down, finally allowing the shudder to run through me. I poured myself another half cup of cold coffee. It tasted bitter, like regret, but it also tasted clean, like victory. I had updated my bank account. I had a new card. And I was finally free. Thank you for listening to my story. If this resonated with you, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel for more stories. And please share your own experiences in the comments below. Reading them helps all of us feel a little less alone. You will lose everything. I walked over to a small, seldom used phone table and picked up the cordless receiver. And finally, the relationship. You two will not contact me except to deliver the payment, or if you need to discuss Maya. Maya is innocent in all this, and I love her fiercely. But I will not be a resource, a bank, or a casual friend until the debt is settled. You've taught me the hard way that when money is involved, the family tie means nothing to you. Sarah stumbled toward me, reaching out a hand, tears streaming down her face now, begging, "Dad, please, I'm your daughter. Don't do this. We love you. We were just trying to save some money for when you needed it." I gently raised the phone to my ear, interrupting her. I didn't dial. I just looked at her, my heart finally hard and detached. That's a lovely sentiment, Sarah, but you should have thought about love and security before you spent it on a 7-day Mediterranean cruise. I lowered the phone, delivering the final blow. You have exactly 2 minutes to leave my property. If you're here when I put this phone down, I'm calling the police and reporting unauthorized entry and a disturbance. And if Kevin opens his mouth again to threaten me, I'm calling my lawyer right now and filing the paperwork. I looked at Kevin. He stared back, the reality of the situation finally slamming into him. He was a professional. He knew how quickly an accusation of elder financial abuse could destroy his career. The fight went out of him. He looked at the floor, defeated. He turned to Sarah, grabbing her arm. "We're going, Sarah, now." He practically dragged her, still sobbing and protesting, back through the living room. As they reached the front door, Kevin snatched his key off the table, then paused, realizing what he'd done. He sheepishly tossed it back onto the table, the key to my house, lying next to the card that bought my freedom. The door didn't slam this time. It closed softly, definitively, cutting off the sound of Sarah's frantic accusations. The house settled back into silence. I stood there, holding the phone, waiting until I heard the sound of their SUV speeding away. Then I walked back to the kitchen table. The crumpled statement, the unwanted key, and the glorious navy blue card. I picked up the key and tossed it into the trash can. I sat down, finally allowing the shudder to run through me. I poured myself another half cup of cold coffee. It tasted bitter, like regret, but it also tasted clean, like victory. I had updated my bank account. I had a new card. And I was finally free. Thank you for listening to my story. If this resonated with you, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel for more stories. And please share your own experiences in the comments below. Reading them helps all of us feel a little less alone.